What's up, fellas? It's your boy Crappie Dave coming to you from Fishing Game. Not a good fishing day for me today, so I figured today I'll sit back in the backyard and go over. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I bought a bunch of lures and some rods and some reels, especially some reels that I haven't used. And I was a stickler for certain things. I used to like to use certain rods, certain reels. Everybody tell you I love St. Croix, and I've got like 5 St. Croix rods that I love to use. And then over the years, I decided to try some, little cheaper rods and just different rods, and just give other rods and reels a chance and review them after like a year and a half to 2 years and see how they hold up after that time. And I have some surprises, some pleasant surprises, and some disappointments for sure, because I bought a few reels from Chinese companies, and I'm sorry, I don't mean any disrespect. I'm not trying to pronounce these names wrong on purpose. I don't know if I'm saying it right or not, but I bought a bait caster from this company called Giordanian or something like that. It was a nice looking reel. It had a really good design on the outside, little lightning bolts on it and all that little silly stuff. And I paired it with my, let me see if I can get it without making a mess. I paired it with my favorite rod. I bought a Defender, this favorite, and I use this rod for frogging, and sometimes I throw heavy chatterbaits with it, but not too often. I mostly use this for frogging. So I'm throwing the rod and reel, and it's casting beautifully. I'm making nice long casts. I'm making pretty accurate casts, getting the frog into nice tight spots, skipping it under bushes pretty good and everything. Everything was great until I caught a fish. When I set the hook and went to retrieve the fish, the reel seized up on me. It wouldn't turn at all. And I mean, the more I tried to turn it, the harder it got. So I just wound up taking the reel off, and I kept the spool because I had some samurai braid on there. I don't know what made me buy that unnecessarily expensive line, but I kept the samurai braid, threw the reel away, and I went and bought a Cast King, which is it's another Japanese or Chinese company, but it's, what should I say, it's got its roots in America, but they do a lot of the manufacturing in China. This is the Cast King Speed Demon Elite, and I have nothing but good things to say about this reel. It's great. The speed is definitely there, and cast pretty damn good. And the only thing negative I would have to say about it, it's not really a negative, it's just that it has the centrifuge brake system. It doesn't have a magnetic brake system. This is the centrifuge system, and when you change, let's say you put a different frog on, and the frog may not vary by that much in weight or whatever. Maybe it just may be shaped different, where it just maybe catches some wind a little. It might be less aerodynamic, or whatever the reason may be. Whenever you change the bait, sometimes you gotta tweak the brakes, because it's really sensitive that way. If you put a little bit heavier, a little bit lighter bait on, you kind of sometimes have to tweak the brakes a little. But other than that, it's a great reel, and it's Cast King. And I've heard a lot of people say bad things about Cast King, but I did a lot of reviews and read people's testimonies online and everything, and before I bought the reel, and I figured I'd give it a shot. And I've been pretty impressed by it. I like this reel, and I've been using it on this favorite Defender rod, which a lot of people, before I bought this rod, I did my research on it, and some people were saying that this is a cheap rod or whatever. I mean, hey, it's what you would call a low-end rod, I guess. I paid like $135 for the rod, and I've caught some nice bass on this sucker. I even hit some striped bass on this pole on a frog, believe it or not. Throwing a frog in the delta at Shag Slough. I hit a 21-inch striper on this rod. Had no problems bringing it in with the reel. The reel is great, so, and the rod too, so I have no issues with that. I like that. Now I want to show you another Chinese reel I bought, and once again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the names. I don't mean to say the names wrong, but this is Segoylang or something like that. Got a pretty nice little anodized paint job on it. The paint job's cool as hell. I don't know if you can see it very well, but the paint job's very good. I like that. And so far it's holding up. It's been about 2 years since I had this, and you can kind of see some wear on the paint job because this stuff is like some kind of plating or whatever where it cracks off eventually. So it's starting to do that or whatever, but the reel's performance is still great. You know, the drag is really good. It has a smooth drag and nice spool capacity. It even has a little rubber ring in the spool where you don't have to use backing if you put braid on here. So I use this for my Cinco rod. I strictly throw Cincos and Cincos only with this, whether it be Texas rig, wacky style, or whatever it may be. This is my Cinco rod, and this is an Abu Garcia Virtus, if I'm saying that name right. I'm terrible with the name pronounctions today, but this rod, I would have to say this is one of my unpleasant surprises of the different rods and reels that I bought a couple of years ago. So when I first was fishing this rod and reel combo, and I hit a bass, and I noticed there was some flex right here. There was a little bit of flex in this, and I didn't know if it was the reel that had the flex in it, or if it's the reel seat that had the flex, or a combination of both. And right now I still kind of think it may be a combination of both. The reel and the rod seat has a little bit of flex in it, but, and I don't want to hear anybody say, well, you put the seat on too tight. But no, I want to show you this, and this is not cool. Cheap components, man, and this kind of thing happens. I got a split right here in my ring seat from tightening it up. It hasn't got too bad yet, but it's the beginning of something bad right there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the reel seat clamp is starting to split. That ain't cool, Abu Garcia. You got to do better, man, with your parts and components on your rods and reels, man. But other than that, this rod is a medium heavy. I think the rod tip, for me to be throwing Cincos with this, I think the rod tip may be a little too stiff. Maybe I should have got a rod with a little slower action tip. You know, I throw heavy Cincos, so the casting's no problem. I can really fling them when I'm like working them back, you know, and I'm really trying to feel that lure, you know, the structure I'm bringing it over and stuff. Sometimes this rod tip is just too stiff and it doesn't have the sensitivity I need, but overall it's a damn good rod and reel combo, and I've really been getting a lot of fish with it over the past 2 years. So what I want to get to now is, this is, at one point was one of my favorites back in the day. This is a St. Croix Mojo slopping bass rod. I caught a lot of bass on this bad boy on frogs, man. I mean a lot. I've caught a lot of stripers on frogs with this rod too. And I paired it with a Abu Garcia speed spool. And I'm sorry, I take it back. This right here is the Abu Garcia Black Max. And once you get this reel broken in, it's a cheap reel. I think I may have paid about anywhere from $45 to maybe $60, or somewhere in between there for this reel, and maybe $50 or $60 for this reel. And once I got it broken in, I took it out fishing and cast a few times and got it broken in. I haven't got a complaint in the world about I can cast against anybody with this bad boy. And I love the St. Croix Mojo slopping frog, but what I don't love is the weight. You know, many of my friends can tell you, man, when I pick up my frogging rod, I won't set it down. I throw it all day long, even if the bite slows down or turns off. I just can't put this rod down. You know, I can't put the frog rod down. I'm always throwing the frog. I just can't help myself. But this rod can get heavy through the course of the day. I don't know exactly how much this rod weighs, but it can get pretty heavy through the course of the day. And I'm not joking. I'm not trying to be funny or anything. It can start to wear on your forearm. So that's why I went in search of a lighter rod for throwing frogs, and I got the favorite You know, that's when I come across the favorite, the Defender, and it's much lighter. It's a joy to throw that rod all day long because it's so much lighter than the Slopping Frog. And I've used this up at Clear Lake before one time when fishing got bad and we switched over and was catfishing, and I pulled in a few catfish with this thing, no problems, you know. But it's just kind of heavy, you know. This is a little heavy rod if you're gonna be throwing it all day long. And I bought, this is a Lew's speed spool right here. I bought this reel, and it's also somewhere in between $50 to $60. You know, I bought this reel, never used it before. I've had this St. Croix Premier for quite a while. I used to have a, when I first bought it, I paired it with a Corrado Bantam, and I love the little Bantam reels. It's hard to find those nowadays, but that's what I had on this originally. And since I wore that reel down, I decided to go a little cheaper, and I got this. And once again, you take them out and you cast them a few times and get them broken in, and they cast beautifully. Man, I have no issues with the Lew's speed spool casting. Once they're broke in, they're beautiful casting reels, and they're pretty damn strong. I've caught a lot of fish on this, and like this year so far, I've been throwing a lot of little small swim baits. You see, I got the little Kitech on there, and it's not even a very heavy lure at all, you know. But with this rod and reel combo, I can whip this sucker out there a country mile, you know. So I really like this. I recommend this reel for someone, you know, who wants to, you know, buy a low-end reel and get a lot of good use out of it. You take care of your rods and reels, you can have them for a long time. And I saved this, making a mess over there. I saved this for last because I wanted to talk to you about this for a little bit longer. See, I got the Dean Rojas frog on there just because it matches, you know, I just like the way it matched, you know. But this is the Serrano Okuma, or should I say Okuma Serrano rod reel combo. The rod was $135 and the reel was $99. And this reel will cast against anybody. I'll put this reel up against anybody insofar as distance casting, man. This is a great freaking reel. It's a magnetic brake system, so it's a pretty simple brake system. I just bought this not too long ago. You know, this got the little digital cast control system in it and everything, you know. Which this rod right here, I took it out and tested it already, you know, throwing frogs. And this SLX is great for precision casts, and I can really get it into some tight spots and whatever without having to worry about backlash, or that's just something that's cool because you don't really have to worry about that much throwing this. You just got to worry about getting your lure in the spot, you know. But when it comes to casting, just pure trying to just fling a lure out there, not even this is going to compete with. And I've told a lot of my friends, but I think they laugh, you know, at me because it's Okuma. Everybody's kind of like, you know, they don't consider this a high-end rod, or not necessarily saying that this is high-end. You know, like I said, the rod itself was $135 and the reel was $99, so it's not by any means high-end, but it fishes like one. The reel is great, man. It casts damn good, you know, and rod, it has a feeling like it's hard to explain, man. I find myself reaching for this rod more than I do my St. Croix lately. The hook set on this is great. The grip is really good. It has the wind grip handle on it, and even the reel has the wind grip, you know. Round and like surrounded curved areas where you're not going to be wearing your fingers out on sharp edges or anything like that. And like I said, it's great for high sticking, and this really just has a lovely hook set feeling to it, you know. So I throw frogs with this. I throw chatter baits and swim baits with this rod, and I like it. I would recommend you try this rod and reel combo. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. I guarantee you. God damn it. In fact, excuse my language, you tell me thank you ahead of time. So when you buy this, depending on, you know, regardless of what you throw on it, I think you'll like it, you know, because I've used a couple of different applications with that, and I was pretty happy with it, you know. So having said all of that, I like to throw frogs a lot, so I want to talk to you guys about some of the frogs and newer frogs I bought, and the frogs that I was pleased with, and the ones that I was disappointed with, and the ones that I was like, nah, with. Get started. This is kind of a meh because you know, it's a scum frog. It's the hook set ratio on this is pretty damn good. It's a really soft body, so when the fish hit it, you can drive these two nice strong hooks up in it pretty good. And because the body is so soft, you don't really have to have these huge wide gap hooks on here. But I don't like the way it sits in the water too much. It kind of, you have to, this is a lure that you can't really let pause, well, at least in my opinion, the way I like to fish it, you can't let this pause very long because it starts to sit upright or whatever. You got to kind of keep moving this. But what it is cool for, it's nice to throw this over cheese mats and scum and weeds and pads and mats, all of that stuff, because it's got the flat bottom and the hooks hug the body. It's got the hooks are hidden behind these little bumps pretty good, so it'll slide right over cover without leaning over on its side, and then it starts to pick up and snag debris and stuff like that, you know. So this lure is pretty cool, but they're not very durable either. But I like them, you know, they're pretty damn good. Another lure that I like, I've caught fish on this. This is the boom boom frog. They're really cool looking, and they got the frog hair on it. It's like Velcro, and I can attest to this, that this stuff works, because I've caught a fish on this before, and when I set the hook and got the fish in, the frog was in the fish's mouth, but the hair had tore off the top of the frog and was still stuck to his to the row of little small teeth going across the front. So it grabs on great like Velcro. I guess it keeps the frog in the fish's mouth long enough for you to, you know, get a good hook set. And it's kind of like a hybrid kind of, it has a very small popping mouth. I don't think this is like a popper, maybe more of a spitter than a popper. And one thing I don't like about it, it has very small hooks. You know, the hooks aren't that big, and the lure is kind of stiff bodied, so that when you set a hook, when I say you have to drive that hook in and set that hook hard, you really have to, because it's not really getting much of a bite. And what happens is, I've caught fish on this lure, and I've lost a lot of fish on this lure. And I think what happens is, you set the hook and you stick them, but you don't hook them. You just stick them, and you may be able to reel them, and they come up to the surface and they look at you and laugh and throw the hook right back at you, because they're not stuck they're just stuck, but they're not hooked good, you know. So these lures are cool, and I would recommend fishing with them, because like I said, I have caught fish with them, but I've lost a lot of fish too, and it could be my fault, you know. Sometimes people say I set the hook too damn fast, you know, so it could be my fault. But I don't appreciate the little small hooks on a lure like this, especially when it's kind of a stiff body like this. And let's see, trash panda lures, they're pretty cool. I've caught some fish on these lures right here, and these, I've got, like, the ones I have, they're not really for the style of fishing that I like to do. You know, this is a popper right here, and I like I like how it has the flat belly where I could bring it across stuff, but you don't want to bring a popper across too much debris anyway. You'll be catching everything. So I bought this trash panda right here with the pointed face, so that I could throw it across mats. And it's pretty cool. It's not very heavy, so I had to stick a few weights, you know, little small beads inside of it, BBs, to give it a little bit of weight, you know, to make it heavier when I'm pulling it across cheese mats and slop, you know. But they're pretty good. I wouldn't, you know, write home to moms about these lures, but they are definitely pretty cool lures. And let's see here, what do we got? These are the Lunker Hunt makes these, the spiders. Caught a lot of fish on these things. I'm gonna tell you, the only problem I have, well, I have two problems with these. One problem is the abdomen should be a lot bigger so that this thing will float better, you know what I'm saying? Especially after you catch a couple of fish with it, it starts to sink a lot, you know? You gotta constantly blow the water out. You gotta squeeze it and blow the water out of the back of it, or it sinks too much. So they need to make the abdomen just a little larger, just so that it have more air to hold it afloat. When you make long casts with this, since it's so low on the water, when you make a nice long cast with it, sometimes you can lose where it's at, you know. And if the fish don't come up and blow up on this, like I've caught a lot of bass, they just come up and just suck it down. They don't blow up on it. They don't make a splash or ripple or nothing. They just suck it down. So when you make long casts with this and you get those kind of hits with this lure, sometimes you can miss the fish because you don't even know that you had got a bite, you know. So one problem I have with this is it just doesn't float very well. A lot of people said that they come apart, like the legs come off too easy and whatnot. Now I've been fishing this for a long time and haven't lost any legs yet, but it's like once you catch a few fish on it, it gets defunctized or something, you know. It doesn't float very well. So it's a problem I have with that lure. And oh wow, I forgot to bring them out since I'm on the subject of little small frogs. I have some Kevin Van Dam frogs that I wanted to talk about. They're little bitty frogs. They're really small frogs. They look cool as hell, so I bought 2 of them because they're so small. I figured I could use that with a lighter action rod and have some fun. But the problem with those lures, they're made from some kind of plastic that's so hard. You could let that fish swallow it all the way down his throat and try to set a hook, and you're gonna snatch the frog right out of his mouth because the plastic is so hard. I've tried letting them sit in some boiling hot water. It softened the lure up for the moment, but the next day when I tied them on my rod to use them, they were right back hard again, you know. So I tried using those lures, but I really don't have a lot of confidence in them because, you know, the plastic is just too damn hard. It doesn't collapse when the fish bite, you know. I have this is the Fish Lab frog. I like these Fish Lab frogs. I had a bigger one than this I used mostly last year for throwing on fish and cheese mats. I had filled it up with buckshots to make it heavier, and it's a nice, you know, they make a pretty fat heavy for us, so it makes a pretty big shadow, you know, when it's coming across those cheese mats or over the top of the cheese mats, you know, and the bass can see them from above pretty good. So I really like the Fish Lab frogs. I recommend fishing these. They are not the most durable frogs in the world, but you will catch a few fish before they start to come apart on you. And oh wow, I got a lot of frogs in here that I forgot to bring out to show you. I wanted to talk about the gavacho frog. I don't know why I don't have that in here. I wanted to talk about the gavacho, but I don't like the gavacho frogs because, once again, you got this frog with a little hook, man. All right, let's change the subject real quick. Let's go to my favorite lure to use, River to Sea Bullywah. This is this is the Little Allen. This is right here is my favorite personal frog of all time. It's the Little Allen Bullywah by River to Sea. Now you see those big hooks, man. When the fish bites down on this, man, he got a lot of hook that's exposed. Big strong hooks that's gonna get it. Now, certain other lures, like I was just talking about this boom boom frog. Uh-oh, my buddy's over here. He might be hungry. I don't know. Come on. You hungry? Come on. Come on. Got my buddy right here. I don't know if he's hungry or not. Let me feed him real quick. Okay, come on. Come on. Come on. Yeah, I have this little guy right here. He fell out of his nest or something and just showed up on our front lawn a couple of months ago. And I've been taking care of him until he's able to fly off and live on his own. But he's really fussy and demanding about his food. Okay, well, that's over with. All right, so what I was talking about was the hooks. Like this boom boom frog, for example, this is small hooks. This lure should have wide gap hooks on it, so you know it could get a better grip, you know, bite into the fish when they hit it. So like I said, the gavacho, man, and that's a kind of expensive lure, and then people talk about it and praise it, but I think it would be much better if it had bigger hooks. If it had hooks like River to Sea put on their bullywahs, man, I think the catch ratio would go up much better, you know. But this is a Mullix, if I'm saying that right, Mullix frog. This is a popping frog. It's a cool color. It's a bluegill pattern. I've caught a lot of fish on this at this pond near my house out here. I'll be fishing out at this pond next to Six Flags Marine World in Vallejo. Caught a lot of fish on this little bluegill pattern out there. And You know, the other lures like the Booyah frog, you know, the pad crashers, you can't beat these. You know, these are always been you know, the price is really cheap too. You know what I'm saying? And these bad boys catch fish, man. But I like to sometimes just use a heavier frog when I'm fishing a lot of scum mats, cheese mats, and throwing back off in the heavy cover. I like a bigger, heavier, more robust frog than the smaller ones. And another one of my favorites is the red ear. A lot of people say this don't work and blah 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 blah. This is a trick to using this frog. I mean, well, not frog, but should I say this hollow body red ear. You don't throw this out, and I don't even walk this because I mean it's not a freaking. It's a you want to use this like it's a dying fish because basically it's floating on the surface. You know, I try to imitate bluegill or red ear that's in his last moments of life. You know, he's on the surface, he floats for a minute, then he may flicker and flutter and make some violent twitches and thrashes. You know, he jump around really, you know, twitching and jumping around real good, and then he sits for a minute. You let it sit for as long as 8 seconds or sometimes long. You let it sit and you twitch it some more and let it sit, then you give it a few violent twitches, you know, you let it sit. But walking it and just, you know, straight retrieve and steady retrieving, that's not really how you want to fish this. You want to fish it for what it is. It's a dying fish on the surface, you know, so you kind of want to try to make it look like a dying fish when you're fishing it. I put a little bit of color on the bottom of it just to make it look like an injured dying fish. But I've caught a lot of fish on this sucker. I hear a lot of complaining and whining about it, but I have nothing but good things to say about this. And another one of my lures I like so much that even when the skirts tore off, I fashioned my own skirts back on it. But this is the Poppin' Wah Bully Wah by River to Sea. You can cast this a country mile, and it's pretty tough and durable, and catch a lot of fish on it. The only thing I would say about River to Sea frogs that I don't like, because I like to fish cheese mats and just a lot of crap on top of the water, you know, and I like to have a frog with a flat bottom. This design, it has a deep keel design, a V-shaped design, so when you bring it across thick mats, it's gonna lay on its side, and when it lays on its side, a lot of times the hook will catch and grab onto things, and sometimes it just flips right over on its back. And if you're trying to bring it over structure and debris on its back, that's definitely a no-no. So I like a frog that has a flatter body, or bottom, should I say, like this Mullock's frog right here. And yeah, it's got a lot of stuff on the bottom of it. I've been throwing this like crazy. This has a flat bottom on it, and it drags across the bottom pretty good. I like throwing this, and it's big, and it's got where you can put some weights in it, you know, and weigh it down on those cheese mats, so when the fish come up from the bottom, they can really just pound that sucker. So you know, I can't remember if this was a booyah or a lunker hunt. I can't remember, but I've caught a few fish on this frog, but I don't fish open water that much. I usually like to throw my frogs up in thick, heavy cover. So when I fish around the outsides of weed lines and stuff like that, I'll throw this frog. And I have had some pretty good success on it, but this little kicktail right here will get damaged after a while. So don't expect this thing to last at all. You know, you may want to buy 2 of them if you buy them at all. You know. So I forgot to bring out a few other frogs to talk about, but I think I covered just about everybody I wanted to talk about in here. And yeah, I see you guys out on the water when I'm able to. Right now I'm dealing with some terrible weather out here and stuff right now, so I don't know what the fish is going to be for me in the future, but hopefully it's a lot better than what it is now. Tight lines, fellas. So I see you guys later. Fishing Gang out.